This is the Mojo, the Meaning of Life and Business podcast, where life and business intersect. Hosted by Jennifer Glass, CEO of Business Growth Strategies International and BGSI Coaching. We are dedicated to your success. Hello and welcome to another episode of Mojo, the Meaning of Life and Business. How many of you have a website? My guess is you probably have a website that you're using. Are you tracking, though, the conversions that happen on your website? Now I'm going to ask you a simple question. Do you understand what I'm even asking? Too many business owners forget the importance of actually watching how many people come to their website, how many people take an action that is desired on that particular website. Whether you're going to a homepage or you're going preferably to a landing or a squeeze page for people to be filling in information, downloading whatever your lead magnet is, your white paper, case study, freebie, whatever it is. These are all pieces that you want to be tracking to make sure that you are seeing exactly what is happening on your site and to know if things are working or not. There are tools that you can easily use that will help you in part of that process. And that is where my guest today is going to really help us understand what all of these tools are and what they mean for us to be watching our own website conversion and optimization processes. But before I bring him on, let me tell you a little bit about him. Mark Harbeke has been in the marketing industry since 2006 and founded his company, Harbeke Marketing, in 2023. Mark helps small businesses to improve their website conversion tracking, including clients of marketing agencies and fractional CMOs. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, Mark, first of all, let me jump right into it. I mentioned a whole bunch of tools and conversions and optimization and all of that, and I kind of explained what that was. But I'm curious to know, though, first of all, what got you into looking at all of these optimization and conversions and everything for your own use?
Yeah, so Google Analytics came out in 2005, and it just kind of roundabouts that time, it happened that I got my degree a few years before that in journalism, and I was in that track for my career. And then I got a marketing job opportunity in 2006 at a nonprofit. So for their website, they already had I'm not sure which version at the time, maybe GA2, but they had Google Analytics installed. So on the job, on that job and ones after that, I just kind of learned about it, learned how to use it on the go, and have used it ever since.
Thank you. And so, if we're looking then at Google Analytics, and a lot of people have at least heard of Google Analytics, whether it's the universal or the new analytic program that people are doing. And by the way, well, you know what? Before I continue from there, can you explain the difference between what they used to call analytics and the universal thing and what you had to change if you didn't already do it? um, really quick so that we can understand, because some people may have had their developer do this 5 years ago and they didn't touch their site and they're ignoring any messages from Google because I don't understand this stuff. My website works, leave it at that. Just help us understand what that means in terms of tracking and all the other analytic stuff that Google gives us, please.
Sure. So yeah, GA3 was running for many years before they made the switch. They Google had like initially starting in 2022, Google announced that they were going to migrate and no longer have UA Universal Analytics, or that's basically GA3. They were going to, move to the next one, GA4, and you were going to have about a year period to migrate your property, your GA3 property, and your data and everything in it over to the new account to GA4. And because of a lot of feet dragging and confusion and other things from business owners, Google ended up extending that another year. So they didn't complete cutting off the data capability to move your account over until this past summer, until around June or July of 2024. So after that point, now if you create a GA4 account, since then it's just a new account and you can't migrate your data over. So that window is now closed.
Thank you. And so at least that helps us understand a little bit of where we're coming from. So let's kind of dig a little bit deeper into what GA4 Google Analytics version 4 is all about. So there's a lot of things that we get from there other than just how many people are coming to my website. Can you give us an idea of what other kind of analytics is so important that we want GA4 to be giving us, please?
Sure. So they have some built-in reports, and they've increased the one change from UA/GA3 to GA4 is um, that they've increased the number of standard reports and templates that you can just, once you're up and running and you've connected your website to it and the data is coming in, you can just run any of the reports. Um, they have user experience areas. They have um, commerce and transactions. You can look at that closely. Um, they have one advantage that GA4 has versus other analytics platforms, including a lot of the major website platforms, um, GoDaddy, Squarespace. I'm on Squarespace, WordPress. You name it. Um, a lot of them have built-in analytics, but there are some limitations. Like on Squarespace, um, they won't tell you in they won't always tell you about unique visitors. They'll tell you about visits versus unique visitors. Whereas on GA4, you can always look at that. So you can look at on GA4, you can look at visits, you can look at unique visits, you can look at new visits, new visits versus returning, and you can look at a lot of other areas like gender, male female breakdown. Um, you can look at a lot of information on devices and operating systems. If you parse out your users that way, you can look at mobile visits versus desktop versus tablet. So they've added more data categories, more measurement areas in GA4 versus GA3. Another huge change in GA4, I would say probably the biggest. On the one hand, the GA4 interface looks more modern. It looks a lot like other Google products. Um, but they added a whole explore area um, where you can create your own report templates from scratch and really put in whatever data points that you want to measure. And that whole explore area was not there in GA3 at all.
Thank you. And so one other question while we're still talking about Google Analytics, is it easy for somebody to install on their own if they don't have a developer?
Yes, it is. And that's something that when GA4 first launched, and again, this was back, a lot of people only started using it in the past year or so, but it's been available for about 2 years at this point. Um, so when in the first year or so that it was available, it was trickier. There were more steps involved, and it was more complicated and hard to understand what steps you needed to do to make the connection. Um, but now in the past, and I've done part of my work is GA4 installs for companies. So I've seen how the steps and the workflow for that for the installation has become simpler, especially in the past year. So yeah, it's easy to do. Google has documentation both in the system as like a steps workflow of pop-ups of like what step to do next. So they help you with little pop-up screens within GA4 for what to do next for installation. But you can also check, Google's support documentation. So a separate, browser tab with that document. And either way, it's pretty easy for an average business owner, somebody who's not maybe their work isn't in tech at all. It's pretty easy for somebody to follow that and install it.
Thank you. And I think if I remember correctly, there's even a WordPress plugin for Google Analytics that you just put in your little number that they give you, and it'll automatically do everything behind the scenes for you. So makes the process really easy, especially if you happen to be on a WordPress backend. But Mark, let me jump then to the other major tool that Google offers, and that's GTM, or Google Tag Manager. So I mentioned in the beginning how many people are actually measuring the conversions and things along those lines. And that's one of the areas that the Google Tag Manager helps us to really be looking at. Can you, though, give us more of an idea what exactly is GTM? How does it work? And why is it so important for businesses to actually be using the GTM uh, ecosphere, if you will?
Sure. Yeah, I work very heavily in both programs, GA4 and GTM. Um, so GTM is basically a way to so in GA4 there's a section called events, which is basically conversion events. And events means anything that a user does on your website. Could even be anything from playing a video to simply just scrolling on the page to clicking something. Um, there's even events for form submission. So pretty much any action that a visitor takes on your website will all show. There's some stock uh, conversion events that are measured in this events report, like clicks and file downloads. Just recently, I saw in the past month or two, before then, all this time that GA4 has been in operation, if you use customization with GTM, you could create a series of events in the events report that weren't available by stock. They wouldn't just show up automatically with the data flowing in. And that event type is called generate lead. So, but that is now not true. In the past couple months, I just saw with a client's property the other day that that generate lead now shows it as a stock event, which is great because that just show like that event type, that metric of generate lead. When you look at that, that just means how many leads across your whole website that you've generated through different forms. So that's a great addition that Google just made to GA4. Where GTM comes in, so you have that event type that I just mentioned of generate lead. You have clicks is another event type, like I mentioned, file downloads. There's several more, but that by default, Google will just tell you how many events of those types that you had across your whole website over whatever period you specify. But that doesn't tell you how specific CTAs or calls to action on your website perform. So that's where my work comes in. So I'll create, let's say, a custom event for somebody. Um, a lot of my work is like you'll have your homepage and you'll have a top menu and or footer. So a lot of projects start out with me with the company saying, okay, I've got this call to action of a button, a prominent button in my top menu that I want most of my people when they land on my site to click on. Could be contact us, could be book now. If there's like a slim series of service offerings where there's one prominent book now for this, and the same thing for the footer. So and then in addition, like homepages will typically have like a hero section towards the top with its own call to action, um, typically a button. So things like that are kind of initial jobs that I work on, and for my clients to test the water of gathering this CTA specific measurement data. So um, so that's where GTM comes in because you can build a series of basically build a conversion event from scratch. In GTM, you use a series of tags and triggers. So when you set that up and you publish the workspace in GTM, and GTM is a pretty simple interface compared to GA4. It's a lot, in my opinion, a lot easier to use. So once you make changes to whatever events you want to set up and you publish it, the nice thing is that GTM works with GA4 so that in GA4 you can go to an area of GA4 called debug view, and when you set and test up in events in GTM, then you go over to GA4's debug view, and the great thing is you can within GTM, there's a section called Tag Assistant where it basically pulls up your website, and you've got a little window on there that says that tag manager is connected to it. So you know that when you're on that page and whatever you want to test, it's going to record in. in GA4 in the debug view. So that's a lot of my work is setting that up. And what I love about that is that you can test and verify your new custom events that you want to create in GTM, and you can test it in real time and have a data point that you can see. It's got like a flow. It's got kind of like a crawl, a vertical crawl, where when a new event comes in at the top, um, you'll actually see a little uh, point and click icon as if like a person actually physically hit a button. So it'll tell you when a new event comes in, and you can see what event that is, and if it matches up to the event that you created in GTM. And there is a little bit of, depending on how the CTA is set up on the website, there's there's some trial and error sometimes, and within GTM, it'll tell you technically why a trigger for an event in GTM didn't fire. So you can do some checking and diagnosing and fixing that. But that's the basic idea, is that you can create custom events for your website CTAs, and test and verify that they work in real time, um, by connecting GTM, and working with GA4's debug view.
Thank you. And so, watching all of these different activities that happen, what kind of additional changes or takeaways do we really need to be paying attention to? Because I can see, all right, fine, I have 100 people coming to the site. And if 100 people are coming to the site, I have 20 of them that are taking advantage of whatever it is that's on the site, or I have two taking advantage of whatever's on the site, or I have 90 taking advantage of whatever is on the site. What do I need to really be paying attention to so that I can be making this site the best that it is, and to be making sure that I'm getting obviously the most value for the time spent on developing the site, and if there's any return on ad spend that has to be taken into account, ROIS, or other kinds of returns. What else do I really need to be paying attention to in that regard when we talk about the information that Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager provide us?
Right. So a lot of the evaluation, and then related website update work. A lot of my work revolves around the generate lead type of event that I mentioned earlier, which has to do with lots of types of forms, including for lead magnets. So where it helps is, obviously all businesses, let's say it's a service business, they've got their lower ticket offers, and higher ticket offers. And where it really helps with the high ticket offers, where maybe you're not getting as much traffic, or if you're getting a decent amount of traffic, not as much of the traffic is converting on that high ticket offer page as you want. Um, so it really helps in terms of, I can look at the data and say, okay, well, maybe, you know, you're doing okay for conversions, but you could be doing better by simply moving the CTA up on the page if it's a form, um, maybe reducing the number of form fields, maybe simplifying the language, making it, does it pass the third grader test? There's lots of tweaks with whatever the CTA is. Even something as simple as a link or a button. Consider putting some more verbiage around it to help with the conversion, changing the call to action language on the actual button. So um, once you have data coming in, then you can see how that page, a high ticket offer page, performs versus other pages, and make those kinds of decisions to see um, if you want to make changes like that.
Thank you. And Mark, here's a question out of left field, but it's one that I know you're going to be able to handle extremely well. There's a lot of alphabet soup when it comes to the internet. I mean, we have URLs, HTML, PHP, GTM, GA. There's a whole bunch of that. But my question, though, is specifically to GTM, and there's another TM, UTM, that a lot of people may have seen or heard or whatever. And UTM is something that's link based, but I want you, though, Mark, if you can, just give us a little bit understanding what the difference is, like you said, third grader, UTM, and GTM.
That's a great question. And I also, I, in like, my marketing materials, like my blog, I always try to, on a first instance, of course, in my shorthand, I'm always saying, GTM all the time, but GTM, of course, also stands for go to market. So often I have to,
Exactly, yes.
yeah, so that's another distinguishing point just with GTM. But yeah, GTM in my world is Google Tag Manager, or you could just call it TM for just Tag Manager. So that's that. And then UTM, I'm not sure what that acronym actually stands for, but it's the parameters that you put, especially typically for email campaigns. Um, and you can, like, if you're working on ads or things in general, like on Facebook, and of course a lot of other platforms let you do this too, but I know that with Facebook ads, you can set custom UTM parameters. And UTM, for how to set up, it's just kind of a series of extra characters, and it has UTM in it, as far as a phrase that goes at the end of the link. um, so that's just used for tracking. It's typically used very heavily for email campaigns because by default, GA4 doesn't distinguish between a visit that comes to your website from somebody clicking in an email versus just typing in your URL in a new browser tab. Um, Both of those by default will typically show under direct traffic on GA4 when really the clicks from the email are from email campaigns. So that's where UTM parameters. I personally don't. I mean, I know about it somewhat. I don't use it very much in my work, but that's what UTM is there for.
Thank you. And UTM, by the way, it just stands for Urchin Tracking Module.
Oh,
Don't
great.
ask me why that was the thing. I have no idea, but that is what it actually stands for. And I use UTMs, especially with my link shorteners. There's a lot of things that I do with the UTMs. I'll have the campaign, the different kind of information that's going out there. Because again, it allows me to be tracking that information in addition to what Google is going to be giving me. Like you said, you don't necessarily know why somebody is clicking whichever button, how they're coming to the site, where they're even coming from. And sometimes it's even, I have the same exact link, but I've got link A and B in different places on my page. And I want to track which one is actually performing better, right? Or people actually getting down to the bottom of the page where that second link is. And that's another tag that I can even have in there, whether it's by email or it is on your website. There's a lot of different ways that you can be using that to be clearly differentiating the traffic so that you know, do you have to make this clear? Do you need to do something different, whatever it may be in terms of that? So just something for you to keep in mind. And again, your developer or Mark, of course, would be in a position to really be giving you that additional guidance on how, what, where, when, why you would be doing whatever it is that you were to be doing there. So, Mark, let me ask you, we spoke a lot about the tech and the, for lack of a better way of saying it, the gobbledygook and the geeky speak as it relates to the back end of a website. I want to ask you from a consumer's perspective going to the site, is there any noticeable difference between somebody going to a website that is GA4, GTM um, enabled and someone who's not to the consumer's perspective?
No, yeah, to the average consumer, you would have to like right click on a desktop page and click the option that says view source to like look at the actual code in a separate browser tab to see the differences between non GA4/GTM enabled versus enabled. But yeah, to for the normal view of what people are looking at, yeah, there's no consumer difference.
And so the value then to the business owner who doesn't know yet if they even have GA4 or GTM installed on their site means there's not going to be a difference to the consumer. It's just going to be the information they're going to be getting on the back end then.
That's exactly right.
Thank you. So, Mark, let me ask you, we went through all of this information covering what the difference is between GA4 and GTM, trying to understand how we can really be implementing it in our businesses to be getting that kind of value, to be tracking the conversions and all of that. And people are, I don't have a clue what the heck to do next. I got to reach out to Mark. How can they get in touch with you?
My website is harbeckmarketing.com. So if you go there, there's a prominent in my top menu. On the right hand side, there's a very prominent blue About Us button. And in my footer, you can there's a contact link. You can contact me there. So yeah, harbeckmarketing.com. And you can also look for my name, Mark Harbeck, on LinkedIn, and reach out to me there as well.
Thank you. And we'll have all of your contact information in the description for the show for people to be reaching out to you. But it really is important for you to be thinking you're spent so much money on developing your website, driving traffic to your website. You are spending a lot of time, effort, and resources to be making sure that your website is one of those pieces of marketing collateral that are going to be delivering the value on the investment that you made in it. So you want to make sure that you're tracking all of the different pieces of information that you possibly can. Now, Mark, one of the other things that we didn't even talk about here is putting in tracking pixels, like Facebook pixels and all of that, or meta pixels, now as they're called. What is the advantage of doing that if I already have GTM and Google Analytics installed, if any?
Well, that's I don't do too much with ads. That's not really my area. I've only worked with a GA4 installed where Pixel's already been installed in a few cases. Um, from what I understand, working with marketing agency clients who are use Pixel all the time for their clients, is that it gets to a really much more granular or specific level of detail with I mean, it's in the name with Pixel, so you can see. Um, Hopefully, I'm not totally wrong on this, but I mean, from what I understand, it's you can not just know like where, let's say in a button area somebody clicked. I measure the button click instance in GA4 with GTM, like we talked about. But there it gets more specific into what pixel area was involved. So I don't. That's my extent. I don't know too
Okay.
much about it, but I know you can get a greater level of detail that especially helps for ad campaigns with Pixel.
It definitely does. And it also allows you, really, like you were saying, with the advertising, the retargeting, because when people are seeing your site, again, one of the first things that you need to understand if you do have a website, which most of you probably do, you need to be looking at the idea that somebody's first impression is going to sometimes be their final impression. But having these pixels on your site allow you to be retargeting them because maybe it wasn't the right time, or they went to a page and they didn't understand how your product was really going to be helping them or your service. If you can retarget them, you can be pushing new ideas in front of their eyes on Facebook or other social media platforms, even Google, to be watching what someone is doing. Because the more information you have on them, you can then create a campaign and you can send them directly, oh, hey, I'm a business coach, but you didn't need help on generating leads. You need an understanding. I've got all the leads I can do, but I don't have the ability to close them. I don't have an ability to monetize the business, or I don't have enough people to be doing the work all these leads are doing. And so if they came to a site and was just talking about generating all the leads they can handle, and at the end of the day, that's not their problem, you need to direct them to a different place on your site that talks directly to their problem. And that's one of the ways, again, that the Facebook pixels and the other pixels can be working alongside the data that Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager are doing for you in that process, that you are going to still be in that position to be making that connection with your ideal clients. So, Mark, thank you so much for being my guest on the show today.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. It's been great.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, you can go to harbekmarketing.com and we'll have all that information in the description. And Mark, one other thing that I wanted just to mention, because I know that you have a LinkedIn top weekly post content tracking sheet that you want to share with our audience. Can you share more information on that, please?
Sure. So yeah, you're going to be providing the link for that. So that tracking sheet. So we all get the emails from LinkedIn. Whether you're um, an employee who has a LinkedIn profile or a business owner on LinkedIn, we all get the emails every week that say your posts got, X number of impressions. So earlier last year, I thought to myself, well, I want to make this email actionable. So I created this sheet template where week by week you can take these emails and plug in the number that they give you, number of impressions, so you can track that uh, at its own level week to week and see how you're doing. And my template includes columns for different topics that you talk about in your LinkedIn posts, so that you can fill in your topics. You can either just talk about random stuff or be intentional, whatever your strategy is. So the sheet template allows you to fill in week by week for the data for the number, and also a little bit about the substance of whatever that post was about, in which topic area that you're talking about that it falls under, so that after only a few months of data, um, and I filled in my sheet for my own business this past September. I picked it up from there and then went back to the emails before that. Anyway, so I have my sheet filled in for all of 2024. So it's great because so the data is there in this template that I'm providing and it's free. And then there's a chart at the bottom of this sheet where it gives you a quick glance so that you know what your, let's say, top anywhere from 2 to 4 topics that you talk about, which of those topics over a long period of time are resonating most with your audience in terms of impressions. You could also use this template to measure engagements. Which LinkedIn also gives you data for. So it's a way to take the data out of LinkedIn. There is a there is an analytics area in LinkedIn where you can look at impressions and engagements. So this template is a way to take the data out of there and look at it over time and make it actionable. And one of the uses that I really like with this sheet is that a common struggle, especially if you don't have a further out strategy for LinkedIn posting, is that a common issue is that somebody might not know what to talk about on a given day. Maybe you want to hit a milestone of 2 or 3 posts or whatever it is every week, but on a given day you're kind of struggling for what to talk about. So this sheet allows you to know your top topics area over time for impressions, so that if you have a day where this happens, you don't know what you want to post about, then you can look and say, oh, I have a set of topics that I know are highest with my network, um, that I can speak to, and maybe it's a case of regurgitating, um, editing something that you've posted before, to kind of save yourself some time. So that's the intent, is to have a data driven North Star for your future topics based on what's resonated most in the past, and taking that data off LinkedIn out of that email that they send, and make it actionable.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, check out harbekmarketing.com and the information on that LinkedIn tracking sheet will be in the description for the episode as well. Again, Mark, thank you so much for being my guest on the show today.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And the biggest takeaway from the show is, if you're not already using all of these different tools in your arsenal to know who's coming to your site, what are they doing on your site, where are they going, what are they clicking, what are they ignoring on your site, it is time to really start paying attention. You cannot change that which you do not measure. You cannot grow that which you do not measure. The only way that you can really get anywhere is by knowing the actual data. It's really nice to say, but people are coming to my site and they're buying. But how many people aren't, and why aren't they? There's plenty of people who are going to be looking at your website. They may be turned off by the color. They may be turned off by the text, by the font. Could be that it's just the wrong product. There's so many different issues that could be there. But if you're not measuring it, there's no way to really understand the true value that your website can be offering you. So check out what Mark has to offer. Talk to your developer if you've got one. Make sure that you are using the right information to be looking at what you're doing and understand the numbers that you get. It's really easy to see, I get 100,000 people over a particular time period coming to my site, and I get 5 of them buying, or I get 55,000 of them buying. There's a very big difference, and you can quickly understand what that will do to your business if you can just increase by 1% the total number of conversions that are happening on your website. But again, if you're not tracking it, you cannot do anything to change it and really make a difference. Again, Mark, thank you for being my guest. And with that, this has been another episode of Mojo, the meaning of life and business. And until next time, here is to your success. This has been another episode of Mojo, the meaning of life and business podcast. If you like what you heard, please consider leaving us a review, liking us, or reaching out to us. You can contact us at bgsicoaching.com and let us know what you think. Thanks so much again for listening.